Today on The Cinnamon Effect, I have Kamla-Kay McKenzie. She's a model who has worked with some of the biggest names in the industry. She is helping other women craft iconic visuals and elevate their presence. And today she's going to show us how to look like a supermodel in front of the camera. Hey there, and welcome to the Cinnamon Effect podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly, and I'm thrilled to have you with me on this vibrant journey of discovery and growth. This podcast is your go-to space for embracing intention, where you'll find clarity on your unique path, deepen those meaningful connections, and unleash your creativity like never before. We'll explore how to build unshakable confidence and celebrate the beauty of gratitude, all while savoring the calm that consistency brings to our lives. Thank you for being with me. Let's sprinkle a little cinnamon into your day and make life sweeter, healthier, and more fulfilling. Welcome to the podcast, Kamla-Kay McKenzie. Thank you so much for being here today. Are you joining us from Miami?
I am. I'm in sunny Miami right now.
I love it. I'm so excited that you're here today because this was something that I actually got a request for from one of my listeners that wanted an expert to come on and talk about posing and showing up confidently in front of the camera. And I feel like it's something, whether you are promoting a business, you're just promoting yourself, or you just want to look good in front of the camera on vacation, you're taking vacation photos. You just want to look good. And it's something that a lot of women struggle with. And I know, being in front of the camera more often now, sometimes I like completely black out and I'm like, I don't know what to do with my hands. I don't know what my best angle is. Like I stress out because I know that there is a technique to it. And we want to get all of your tips today on how to look like a supermodel in front of the camera.
Well, I have you covered. I will do my best. Obviously, sometimes it's a little bit harder in the podcast setting, right, to show all of the things, but we're going to navigate through it as best as we can in this like limited space.
You are a model. Do you currently model? I know you've modeled for some of the biggest names in the industry. So current model, you're coaching other models, other entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs on this subject.
Correct. Yes. So I've been modeling professionally for 15 years now. So I do print work and TV commercials. I still do that. But when I started really focusing a lot on my business, I had to take a little bit of a step back just to figure out things like funnels, right? Like spend time doing all those things for building a business. And so, yes, I do work with non-models, but actually primarily about 80% of the clients who I coach for posing are non-models. They're female founders and executives and people who, like you said, they want to look great on their vacations or they have photo shoots for their brands and they really want to elevate on camera. So sometimes I do get women coming to me and be like, oh, I'd love to learn from you, but I know you only coach models. And I'm like, that's far from the truth because models a lot of them already know how to pose, right? So I cater to the women who still need that help.
What do you think the biggest mistake women are making in front of the camera is?
Great question. So I always say to women that they need to take up space on camera, which is a hard thing when you are there and you're like, you feel frozen, you feel stuck because your mind goes blank, like you said, right? So the biggest thing is the movement. Most women are not moving enough on camera. And by that, I mean, I always talk about my fluid method of posing. And that basically means that when you're on camera, let's say that right now, let's say that you're my photographer, Kimberly. When you're my photographer and I'm looking at you, I shouldn't be holding this pose and be like, okay, in my brain, okay, did he get it? Did she get it? Did she get it? And not moving. It should be, did she get it? Did she get it? Did she get it? Slight movements, right? But we have a tendency that we're so locked in on that one position that we're in and we're waiting for the photographer to keep snapping. And then what happens? You look at your camera roll and you have 10 images when they send you the gallery where you didn't have a slight budge in your posture or in your chin position, right? So I always say the biggest thing is that you're not moving enough. Like you should be adjusting like every 2 seconds. And it doesn't need to be anything dramatic. It just needs to be the small adjustments because why is that important? Let's just say that the photographer takes the 10 photos and your chin is slightly high. That could have been the photo you loved, but had you moved your chin slightly down, that's my angle. And you would have finally loved a photo. So keep moving a little bit.
Yeah. Is that always like a tip? I feel like the chin down is a good
Yeah.
reminder.
So depending on, and here's the thing, it depends on the photographer's angle. Like if the photographer's taller than you versus shorter than you. So the photographer, it is their job to kind of tell you, okay, chin slightly up or down if it's looking a little bit awkward from their height direction. But your job as the person in front of the camera should always be, let me tilt it up slightly, let me tilt it down, and then also slightly to the left and to the right. So you're kind of going, it's almost like, and we can get into this more, but when you're posing your face, it's almost like you want to think about a clock. So a clock goes all the way in a full circle, right? So you should be posing to get different angles where you're not always making eye contact to the camera, which is another thing that people do. They stare and you're profusely like staring at the camera. What happens? Your eyes start to water a little bit. You start to get a little bit self-conscious because you're having to like look at this photographer and you're thinking, oh my God, they're staring at me. There's, it's so intense. Do not make eye contact every time. So with the clock analogy, it's like you're rotating your head around. You're going to the photographer. You're going back. You're maybe like looking up slightly, right? So your head is doing these directional turns so that by the end, this is how you're having all of these different angles with just small gradual movements. Does that make sense?
It totally does. And you look like such a model as you're doing it. Like it's so, you're so beautiful. So you guys have to go see her. Yeah.
Like I said, I mean, 80% of my clients are non-models. They're everyday women. They're not a size 0 and it works. It's just understanding the techniques, but making sure that you practice. Because if you understand these techniques and then wait until the day of your photo shoot, again, it's going to go blank because you have not created that muscle memory.
Yeah. So practice in the mirror beforehand. Maybe put the outfit on. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because you don't have a mirror when you're doing it, of course. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So you have to practice with the mirror and without a mirror. And a pro tip also. So there's an app called Lens Buddy. I have it on my cell phone. So Lens, Lens, and then Buddy, Buddy. And Lens Buddy, I always tell my clients, download that app because it allows you to simulate as if you're kind of on a photo shoot. So what do I mean by that? When you have your regular phone and you do self-timer, it normally gives you, what is it like? Take a photo every 3 seconds, every 5 seconds, every 10 seconds, whatever. But you're constantly running back and forth to your phone to press the timer and then running back, right? And waiting for it.
Yeah.
With Lens Buddy, what I like about it is, and I'm in no way affiliated with Lens Buddy. I don't get paid for this.
Okay.
But I like it because one of the great things on there, and I use it as well for myself, but one of the great things on there, you can set the timer where you can say, take a photo of me every 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, whatever. But then the great thing is you can tell it how many photos to take. You can literally set it to take 25 pictures, 50 pictures, 100 pictures, and you never have to run back and forth to your phone. So what that does is, depending on how quickly you set the setting, like let's say you say, take a photo of me every 3 seconds or every 5 seconds, that's making it feel like you're on a shoot, right? Because you're seeing your phone snap or hearing it if you turn the volume up. It snaps kind of like a professional camera would with the sound, and you're moving as your cell phone is snapping and taking these pictures. And then in the end, you're able to go through and see the gallery of all of these shots that you took as if a photographer was taking it for you. So then you're practicing, what would this feel like if I was on a photo shoot? And you can start to see, where am I getting stuck here? How many photos did I take where I made no movement at all? So that's why I personally like it. And I use it for myself.
Yeah, no, I love that hack. Just getting more comfortable and the practice of it. I guess people don't think that they need to practice, taking photos, but it does take time and it does take a little bit of practice in learning your body and learning your facial angles and learning, what you like, and what you think looks good on you. Now, what about the arms? I always kind of panic about my arm. Do I put my arm on my hip, my hand on my hip? Do I leave it down? Do I move it away from my body a little bit? Because I'm one of those people that's like a little self-conscious of my arms. Mm-hmm. So I'm always like, what am I doing with my arm? And I never want to be the one on the end of a group photo because then I'm like, oh my gosh, my arm is the one that's showing. What are we doing with our arms?
A few things for your arms. Great question. I get this often. And actually, I just flew to Arizona and I was coaching a client there, and that was her thing. Her arms. It was like whenever she was wearing, she wore her first outfit was a sleeveless shirt. So she was very self-conscious about how that was looking versus how she was feeling like when her arms were more covered, right? So this is an excellent question. And so one of the big things is making sure that your arm is not tight to your body. Why is that? When your arm is super tight to your body versus where you have a little bit of a breathing room where you can see a gap in your arm, when it's tight to your body, you're tensing, right? And especially if you have a wider arm and you're a little bit self-conscious also about the size, when you press it against your body, it's making your arm look wider and fatter, right? Versus when you give that opening, that space in between the side of your body and your arm, you're just naturally telling your body, okay, I'm feeling a little bit more confident, right? Like I'm not as self-conscious. And now your arm feels more relaxed naturally. So that also loosens up how your shoulder's feeling, because when it's pressed against your body, everything up here also looks tight. And what happens? That means that when your shoulder tends to come up, but when we're posing, shoulder needs to be back and down. And it helps when there's the opening to do that. So to recap, it's try not to have your arm too tight against your body. Make sure that there's a little bit of a gap because that just flatters the size and shape of your arm better. And it also allows up here to not look as tense. So that would be main pro tip number one. Next one would be with your arms so that you're not always doing the teapot pose. So let's just say, let me see how much I can do. I can stand up here for anyone that watches, that listens to this on a video, right? So let's just say, for instance, a lot of times we do the teapot pose, right? So instead of always having where your hands are coming in, put your fingers downward and slightly behind you and lower it. Because why is that? Depending on your angle, right? This is going to elongate your body. So for instance, if I go back to the typical teapot pose, what is this doing? You notice how it's cutting off my torso? So the torso is looking shorter in this area versus if I bring it down, it's opening up my body and giving me more elongation, especially depending on the shape and size of this part of your body. So it opens you up a little bit more. And now naturally, it's allowing you to do more movement when you're moving your arm. Like, let's say I'm taking a photo. Remember what I said before about not being stiff? If you were my photographer, Kimberly, I would be moving my hands slowly up and down, bringing my shoulder back a little bit, bringing it forward, but being mindful. When we're tense, we do this. Like I was looking at, sometimes I look at my clients' Instagram pages before I work with them and I'm getting to know like, okay, where are they struggling? And I see this a lot in all of the photos, or if it's the teapot pose, it's like this, but the shoulders are high. It should be back and down if you're going to do this. Down. Or like this.
And your hand is like, your hand looks like you would be sticking it into the back of your jeans pocket or something, right? Like your
so you don't want it all the way back here. You don't want it all the way back here because what happens? You're losing your hand. So more so just slightly on the hip area. And depends, obviously, like if you're wearing pockets, you can just stick one thumb into the pocket. Also, something super important with your hands, because I know that you mentioned that before, is when we're posing, we tend to have either our hands like go into a little bit of a fist by our side, or they're very wide. So I always tell my clients, think ballerina fingers, meaning you want to have a gentle bend in your finger. So you see how you have your, relax that pointer, relax it a little bit more. Cause right now you're like this, there you go. So when I'm here, for instance, if I'm posing, let's just say a lot of times people will do like poses like this, no wide fingers, gentle, and just rest it there versus having it flat. So if we're doing this, it's not this, it's more of a gentle bend. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So
yeah, that's
see how my fingers are here?
Yeah. I've seen the wide finger. It's like, it's almost like, you're nervous and you're just kind of like flexing your hand or.
Exactly. Or some people, they'll put like a hand here and it's flexed here. No, it should be here versus here. So it's more of a gentle bend where the fingers come together.
What about, I heard that if you see my hands like where I'm holding them like this, but if you hold them down and kind of like gently hold them together, like one hand is holding the other one. Is that a decent pose or not really? Okay.
Yes. So this is like the classic red carpet pose. So it's the, I think they also like refer to it as like, it's what typically like a duchess or like a princess, like that's how they're taught to hold their hands, to be very dainty. So it's like having, for any, if you're watching the video, it's a little pocket, right? That you just put your fingers in, and gentle, again, because we don't want to do a grip like this, right? It's a very gentle hold. And it kind of reminds me, similarly, when you're doing a photo shoot, for instance, when I talk about taking up space and utilizing our hands so that everything is not right by your body. When I say take up space and you're posing, right? So it's hard for me to see how much of my arms you can see before I cut
Your
out a
hands
frame.
are kind of cut off.
Yeah, exactly. So when you're posing, let's just say that I'm posing up here, right? And you want to put your hand by your face. You'll see like a lot of photos where women are just utilizing their hands in different aspects, right? Again, it's not wide arm or wide hands. It's gentle ballerina figure. So I'm posing and it's more like this versus like this on the side of my face or wherever it is, right? So take up space, pose. Let me get in here. So when I'm posing, think about, how can I have my arms not touching my body? We always think about touching your body when it comes to your arms. Think about, what are things that I can do? So even sometimes, let's say that we're posing here and you're comfortable with one hand in your pocket, maybe like one arm goes out, or one hand, like you're looking down and one hand is like this, right? Because everything should not be touching your body. Otherwise, your photos are going to all look the same. If you have a 50 photos and your hands always touch your body, everything is going to slightly look the same. So try to always have one hand away from your body or both hands to give variation. So it's like, if two are touching your body, great. Then have one touching your body, then have none touching your body. So even if we did something where we were posed and we're upwards like this, right? Or like this, it's always trying to get hand movements, not just down here, but up above your body as well. That'll give us much variation in your photos.
I like that, because I have done photo shoots before where I'm like, well, there's not much variation in what I'm doing. Right. And that's kind of boring. You want to be able to have a variety of things, especially if you're doing something for a brand. You want different things for the website and different things for social media. And you need to have that mixture of different poses.
Right.
Now, what are we doing? Okay, because you've kind of addressed, like, the hands need to be soft, one hand touching the body, one, kind of away from the body. What are we doing with our legs? Are we on an angle? Are we like beveling the toe? Or some people call it like the Barbie toe, where you're kind of on the ball of your foot and kind of popping that heel up. What are your thoughts on that?
So for the legs, and this applies also for the arms, but always think triangles. How many triangles can I create in both my arms and my legs? Because what happens is, so let me back up again. So what happens is, when we have, let's see, I'm glad I wore shorts. I didn't know I didn't know how much standing I was going to be doing here. So when we're thinking about legs, okay, so what do people typically do? They do this stance where they go out like this, right? Or they just stand directly facing the camera. But if you really want to elongate your body on camera, think about a 45-degree turn. So we're just slightly turning our body, shoulder, not tight, down and slightly back, right? And now what happens, you see my leg that's closest to the photographer, that is a slight bend in the knee. Or let's say that I want to just face the camera. I'm going to do where my knee is slightly out, because we're thinking about as many shapes as possible in our body. Because otherwise, what happens? We're kind of flat. Shape, shape, or shape, right? Think about shapes in your body. So also for the legs, one of the things, and it'll be a little bit harder to showcase on this, but one of the things that I love to tell clients to do is give me like the New York City walk. So you'll see sometimes in the magazines, or like even on Pinterest, the ladies, they do the exaggerated walk. And what that means is, when you are posing, it's almost like you do a fake step. So if you watch me for a second, you're going to see both one arm goes in front of me and one arm goes behind me. And so I step out. And it makes it seem like, when the photographer is taking the photo, it makes it seem like, oh, I was doing a lot of action shots. Especially if you look slightly behind, you're off to the side versus just staring at the photographer. So right leg is closest to the photographer, since my body's turned. I step with my right leg and I pull my body upward like a string. So I'm not stepping with flat feet. I'm stepping and I'm now on my right toe and I'm pulling myself upward. Right now, this is flat. This is pulling myself upward. So it's almost like I'm on my tippy toes. So now tippy toes, arms, and looking off. And if you were to snap that photo, it looks so much different and it feels like there's movement. So as a model, people think when they see the photos, they're like, oh, that's so easy for you. But in reality, when we're on photo shoots with clients, and even as a model, we'll do this 15 times in a row. Why is that?
Yeah.
Because there's always going to be the magic moment where you get that shot where your arm is slightly different, where maybe you do your arm up here, you do your arm where it's one hand on you versus both arms back, right? So you keep repeating the same but slightly different pose. And that's when you're like, that's the money shot. But people see the final image and they think, oh, you did that in one take. Sometimes it happens, but sometimes the photographer will keep saying one more time, because they also have to catch up to their shutter speed of your movement so that it's not blurry, right? Does that make sense?
Yes, totally. Now, how can you apply that when you're on vacation, let's say, and you're trying to get a good photo? You're asking your husband or your friend to do it, or a stranger. Are you telling them to just kind of snap as many photos as possible?
So on our cell phones, and of course, depending on if you have Android or iPhone, but it should be similar. So I will show on mine, just because if you're watching the video here. So we're going to press and hold. And then when you slide it, it'll start to take multiple like burst photos of you. And so you can have the person that's taking the photo of you press and hold and swipe. Of course, so now it's working. So you see how it's the numbers are rolling up, the burst here. If I'm just holding it the whole time, everything that you're doing in the front of the photo is being captured. And now I have a million photos of the computer screen. Yeah. But yeah, if they press the photo button and slide it to the left, it'll do burst mode. So everything that you're doing in terms of movement will be captured. Or, of course, they can just take one photo at a time. But especially if you're doing motion shots, pressing the center button and sliding it to your left is going to give you the burst of the movements. Now, really important tip when someone is taking a photo, you hand it to a stranger that doesn't know your angles, is with the phone, whoever is taking the photo. So let's say, Kimberly, I'm taking a photo of you right now. When I'm taking the photo, I'm not going to have the top of the camera pointing down. Of course, there are some people that they like that better because they like the proportion of it relative to their chest, what have you. But generally speaking, you typically don't want the person taking the photo, to hold the phone downward, because it tends to make you look wider, fatter, shorter, right?
Okay.
So it distorts your proportions a little bit more. Yeah, so it depends. Some people are like, oh, I don't like, depending on my chest, I like it better that way. But generally speaking, the rule is the person taking the photo should have the top of the phone towards them. So right now, if I'm taking your photo, Kimberly, I'm not going to go down. I'm going to go back and slide the top of the phone towards me to take your photo. And
angle it towards you. Yeah, the photographer would angle it towards me. Them. Okay.
Because what you see how the trajectory of the phone now, this is going to make the person that's in the photo look taller. It's like the perspective shift, and it's going to make you look leaner. So with that being said, also is, let's just say, for instance, and I know you're married, but I don't know if your husband's taller than you. If he is taller than you,
actually,
he's not. Okay, so
in that case, but not by much.
And especially if you're wearing heels, right?
Right.
So the rule is though, for your listeners, is that if the person taking the photo is taller than you and they're holding it at their body height, what happens? You're going to naturally look shorter on camera because they're much taller than you. The phone needs to be held in the position of your body, not the person taking the photo's body. What do I mean by that? Let's say that the person that's taking the photo is trying to get your best angle. They need to move the phone down to, let's say that you want to look taller on camera. That means the camera needs to be at the belly button height of the person that is in the photo. Belly button height gives you the most realistic perspective of what your body looks like. If you hold the camera slightly below that person's belly button, then they're going to look even taller and more elongated on camera. But let's say that you're a woman listening and you're 5'3", and the person taking your photo is 5'10", and the 5'10" person holds the phone at the 5'10" person's face or chest area. That's not going to make you look as flattering as if that 5'10" person pushes the phone down to the belly button height of the 5'3" person. That's just going to make the photo look a lot better. So it's always the proportion of the person who is in the photo.
That's so interesting because, sometimes you'll get a photo and you're like, I don't know what they did, but that was the worst picture of my life, right?
Right.
And then someone else
did this.
They did. And like, if you're a shorter person, do not get such a tall person to take your picture.
Yes. And, or if you do, they just need to pull the phone down to your height. So often, for instance, my husband is taller than me. So when he's taking the photo, he's not like this snapping. He's not at his face height. He goes, okay, my wife's belly button is right around here. So I'm going to hold the phone right here. I'm going to tilt the top of the phone towards me, husband. And now I'm going to take my wife's photos. Or he will bend down so that he's more in my height. He will actually squat his body down, and then he'll take the photos from this way.
I mean, I feel like this is such an incredible tip for everybody that does not understand why they keep feeling like they look terrible in pictures, that there's like a disconnect. They're like, well, I felt good when I left the house, and then I saw these photos of myself.
Right. And sometimes, like you said, sometimes it's great and sometimes it's not, but you never know how to actually fix it. Well, that's part of the fix, is how the camera is being held. And one thing also I will say is sometimes you'll see on social media and you'll see these final pictures that people post, or like on Pinterest. And yes, the posing, lighting, all of that is great, but a lot of people are posting pictures for the women who may look at their photos and they're like, there's just something that it just doesn't look as great as I was hoping. You need to adjust your post-production lighting. So what do I mean by that is I personally like use Lightroom, but sometimes I will use just the editing feature on my phone. So for instance, there was just a picture that I just did with my sister. Okay. So before I post this photo, it seems like it's a great photo, right? But always go into your phone settings and make sure that you slightly adjust the lighting in these areas. So you can adjust exposure, for instance. You can slide over and let's see how good I am backwards, but like shadows, colors. Oh, this is the saturation here. So maybe I'll adjust the saturation, you see, so that we start to make the photo pop a little bit more. So if I press and hold the screen.
Gorgeous picture, by the way, of you and your sister.
So you want to, thank you. So you want to be able to see the shift in. Oh, there we go. Okay. I'm like, why is it not showing? Okay. So you want to be able to see, this is the original, right? So you see how the lighting is a little bit darker. If I let go of the screen, you're going to see that the photo looks a lot brighter and a lot more vivid. And that's the key, is that before you post the photo, sometimes you're looking and you're thinking, you know what, this doesn't look as good as it can be. And all you have to do is take 2 seconds, adjust the lighting, adjust the color saturation. And now all of a sudden your photo is like this vivid, bright thing that you didn't have before. And you're like, oh, I see why her photos always look that great. 2 seconds before you actually post that photo.
Yeah, I usually do just the enhance. It's like the little magic wand, it looks like, or whatever that's in there. And I usually click that because I don't really know what to do with the other stuff, but I'm going to start playing with it because it's true. I think people think that, we're just taking these fantastic photos and not having to do anything or not having to work for it. But you do, you have to work a little bit for the good shot that you want to post.
Yeah. And sometimes to your point about like the little magic wand thing, it does a good job, right? But sometimes if you just manually adjust, like there's one called, what is it? Like black point, and it adjusts like the dark areas in the photo. So it has more contrast. And that's why too, when you go to a professional photographer, right? Their edits look so good, which is part of why you pay them. And they're also doing the same thing because the photos they took in your phone, in their camera, did not look as good as the ones that they send you as the final ones for your website. And that's just the reality, even when they're using a professional camera.
Totally. The sad thing is that I feel like a lot of women, now they just don't want to be in photos. Do you have friends like that? Like I have a lot of friends that just do not want to be in photos. And I always tell them, I say, I think you're going to regret that. You're going to regret not having, photos with your kids or photos of you in that time of your life, because guess what? In 20 years, you're going to wish you looked exactly the way you do right now,
Yes. Oh, such a good point. It's funny. Actually, as you said that when you specifically said photos with your kids, I remember one of my clients, she actually told me that she would tell her husband, no, don't take a photo of me. Just like, just get one with like the boys or whatever. And she realized there was like that little period where she didn't have nearly as many photos with her two boys, which at the time I think were like 2 and like 5 or something like that. And she took I have an online posing course, and she took the posing course, and in there I also give the tips about like how to direct someone to take your photo. And she's like, okay, I feel like before he was always taking horrible angles of me. So then when I would see the photo, I didn't want to be in it. Right. So from the course, she actually had him watch some of those sections with her. And now she feels so much more confident being on camera because, she learned all the angles and her angles and stuff in the course, but she also learned how to give directions to her husband. So now he's like, okay, now I can take your photo and you're not going to tell me every time. No, just take it of the boys. And so now she has a lot more of those memories. So that was a really good point about you're going to miss out on that.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It doesn't mean that you need to look perfect.
You don't have to look perfect, but we want to optimize everything we can to look the best in the pictures that we can.
Right.
And I'm going to go straight home and tell my husband all of these tips.
Yes. And also,
this is what you need to do.
Hold the camera, adjust it, bring it lower. Also, something else that I find that a lot of my clients ask about is like a double chin area. And the trick is turtle. So for instance, if you feel like your jaw structure could be a little bit tighter, or just like in photos, like you don't like that area as well. So it feels very uncomfortable, but models, especially curvy or plus size models who do campaigns, like they use some of these as well, depending on their area right here. So it's the turtle. So when we're posing, when we get nervous, we naturally, like we said, the shoulders go in, your chin goes in, right? Your neck goes back. But really, instead of you going backwards like this, you should be pushing out a little bit. So it feels awkward, but from a front facing, when the photographer's here, it looks a lot better in camera. So instead of bringing it in, it's more pushing it out, bringing it in, pushing it out. So it's called the turtle. So even if you were to I think there's other people who, refer to it as turtle or something else. But even if you go online, you'll see other people being like, don't forget, push out your chin, because it makes a difference. So sometimes you may need to push it out and bring your chin down so that it doesn't look like, like this. We don't want a super tight area here, but it's just a slight push out.
Okay.
And because if you do have a lot of fat here, if you have a lot of fat here and you're bringing it in, it's going to compress it, versus if you push it out, that helps to, stretch out that area, essentially is what it's doing.
Yes. And you're kind of tensing those muscles. So maybe, that looks a little better.
Exactly.
Oh my God,
I'm loving all neck, so you're good.
I do have a long neck. Oh my gosh, it's so funny. I had to grow into my neck when I was younger. I don't know what, there was a very awkward stage there for a while with a very, very long neck, and I kind of grew into it. But I was a dancer,
I love it though.
It helped me out.
Right. I was going to say, that is a model's dream to have a long neck.
But that is funny, because do I really know what to do with my neck? I don't. But now I do. I'm going to do the turtle.
Yeah. And that's mainly especially like I said, if you have an area here where you're like, I don't like, if there's too much fat in this area, or just, as we age, that skin loosens up. That's just one way to do that.
Yes. The loose skin, I think, is the thing for sure. Okay. So how do you dress for a brand photo shoot? I feel like this is something that I have struggled with. I've done different brand photo shoots. I think I try and play it safe, and it doesn't feel like me necessarily. I'm like, do I wear accessories? Do I want to look professional, but yet I want to look I want to be authentic to who I am. So what are your tips for that?
So you kind of answered your own question, right? Because you're overthinking it so much about what do I wear, in the sense of, is this, and then it doesn't feel like me. So in your everyday life, would you wear, earrings like this, or would you wear studs? Now, granted, in photo shoots, like for magazines, right, we tend to do a bigger production. just because we want like these magazine worthy type of photos. But again, you have to feel like yourself. So that's why sometimes when people will hire a stylist for their brand photo shoots, the stylist goes through with them and they ask them like, what's their personality? What are the typical types of clothes that they would wear? So you definitely want to wear things that you would think, okay, maybe I'll push the envelope a little bit to go a little, slightly fancier, but I want to wear something that I'm comfortable with. So for instance, let's just say in your corporate job or, your entrepreneurial job, you're typically someone that's wearing pants, like a pantsuit. Then why are you stressing about making sure that one of your outfits is a dress for your brand shoot? Because in our minds, we're thinking about, okay, well, let's have some variation in our outfits, which we do want to have, but have variation in other ways in things that generally feel comfortable to you. Don't have the variation in the outfit that looks amazing, but you're like, I don't really would wear this in real life, but it looked great on the Pinterest photo. And I was like, this is the LinkedIn vibe that I want to give. Do not do that, right? Also, I think when it comes to dressing, make sure that you try out your movements in that outfit. So let's say, all of the things come from the store, you try everything on and you're like, okay, great, these fit. What happens? They all fit. You're like, these are the 3 outfits I'm wearing. You put them in a bag and you're like, you're good to go. The first time that you're actually moving and trying out how your body feels in the outfit is on set. And what happens? You realize that now you're moving and the jacket does like this weird thing, like on the side every time, like you try to turn, like there's this weird gap, right? And then you're struggling on set. So make sure that before your photo shoot that you're actually putting on your outfits that you plan to wear that day and you're moving, you're turning, you're doing like the fake walks or the fake jumps or, you're sitting down. Because a suit jacket is going to look different when you sit down than when you're standing up, but you didn't think about those things. And now you realize, oh, you know what? This material is a little bit heavy for when I sit down. Maybe I'll switch it to the next jacket. And so those are things that you want to consider. Also, think about how much movement is that outfit going to allow you to have? Because the more constricted the outfit is, the more restricted you're going to be in your movements. You're not going to feel as comfortable doing a pose. So let me back up here for a second. So I'm wearing shorts right now, so I can do this. But let's say that you decided to pick out a dress for your outfit and we're doing a seated chair pose, right? There's only so much that you can do in a dress to still be classy, right? However, if I'm wearing shorts, I can be a lot cooler in my posing. I could put one leg up. I can like lean against something that's next to me. I can lean on my, my leg that's elevated like this and have so much more variation versus just sitting on a chair, LinkedIn pose, right? People always do the crossed arm and, like this or the hand on the chin because they're wearing a dress. There's only so much you can do. With pants or shorts, you can be on the chair and maybe you'll put one leg up and now we're giving triangles, right? You can't do that as easily depending on how short your shorts are. Or if you're wearing really baggy pants, sometimes it gives like that weird, the folds right in that area right here that doesn't look flattering to your lower half. Again, you would have known that had you done a few things with the chair, with standing in that outfit. So think about how fluid the material is for the types of poses. So if you do have a mood board from Pinterest, for instance, think about, okay, can I actually do that pose that is on my Pinterest mood board with this specific outfit? Because if you haven't tried it out, you're not going to know if it's going to actually be realistic unless you're already someone that's comfortable with posing like I am. I can look at an outfit and tell if that's going to work. But if you're not as comfortable, then you certainly need to be testing it out first before the shoot.
Yeah, I feel like the dress, like I'm always like, oh, a dress is a great option. But what you just said and what I just saw you do was like so great. Like now I'm thinking, oh yeah, shorts with like a little jacket or just kind of switch it up. It doesn't have to be a dress.
Exactly. Like you can still be professional without it being a dress. And I'm wearing shorts and I feel like this outfit is still great with a pair of nice heels,
Totally. Totally. No, I love that. It's such a great point. Put the clothes on before you get to the photo shoot. Put the clothes on before you go on vacation. Like test it out. See how you're going to like it. Because I will generally put something on. I'm like, oh, like I just don't like the way this feels. I know I'm going to be hot. That's not going to be comfortable.
Right.
Like we do need to kind of figure out if it's going to work for what our goals are.
And in terms of the vacation too, and I think this would work for anything, but I always think about it even for myself or vacation. I put together, like when I'm packing, I put together, like I pack with the outfits together. So I'm like, okay, this jacket is going to go with these shorts. And obviously, yeah, there's some things that you may rotate a few times on vacation, but generally speaking, when I'm packing, I have all of the things that are going to go together in terms of an outfit together in my suitcase. And of course, this podcast is not about packing tips, but why is that important from the posing standpoint is when you're packing and you're thinking about what outfits are going to go together, like that I'm going to want a photo in, then your brain is already pre-planning. I'm going to be in Italy. Okay, we're going to do a boat trip. What am I going to wear on that boat so that I have a great photo? Now you're packing and you put the bathing suit in there and you're like, oh, I'm going to be on the boat. So a cover up that's going to be able to float in the wind is going to make for a great photo. And so you're putting those things together so that when you're getting dressed, all of those pieces are coming together and you're not flustered afterwards thinking like, oh, okay, this could have been better, or I should have worn this on the specific boat. So when I'm going on vacation, I actually have photos in my phone of all of my different outfits that I tried on so that when I'm there and I'm trying to like pull out all these things from my suitcase, I'm like, oh, it was that pink shirt with the white shorts, right? And I'm already all set for the day in terms of packing and knowing what's going to work well for a photo.
I love that. And that's so true. The pre-planning is perfect for that and keeping yourself organized while you're on the go. Because you're going to forget, you're going to get flustered. But if you have
Right.
all of that in place, it'll set you up for success, right? Let's talk about facial expressions in photographs. My natural go-to is a smile or a laugh. And I've kind of gotten really comfortable with the laugh, kind of looking away from the camera and laughing. And that's like, okay, I'm nervous. I don't want to look at the camera. So I'm just going to like do this laughing thing over here. And then inevitably the photographer will say, okay, give me like a serious shot. And I can't even do it because I feel like I look ridiculous. I look mean. I look mad. So let's talk about facial expressions in photographs.
So I love that you gave the example of looking mean or mad. And the reason for that is if you're being serious and you're not softening your eyes, that's going to be the result every single time. So Tyra Banks talks about this. Like she coined the phrase smizing, which is smiling with your eyes. And it's funny because Tyra used to say half the time she was so dazed out on her shoots. She was thinking about her boyfriend or whatever the case is, but yet she was doing these amazing poses, but she wasn't even really, there. And so I tell my clients too, when you think about smizing, think about it like something just happened. Like you just, you got a phone call from somebody, you want to tell your girlfriend, or you want to tell your partner, but you can't share it in that moment because there's other people around. So you give them that look and you're like, the look of like something is going on. It's interesting me trying to tell it and talk and do it at the same time. Yeah. So it's almost like you're squinting slightly and you're giving that person a look of like, oh my gosh, I have something to tell you, but I can't use my mouth. Like we'll have to talk about it later. So I'm sure you've had that look with your husband before or with a girlfriend of yours when you're in a scenario and you're trying to get them to realize something and you can't use your mouth. So it's like that, almost like that joy or that energy that comes from within that you showcase, like you tell a story with your eyes. So how do we do this? One, it is about the thinking of what's like a really positive thing that I can think of right now that makes me just like burst with love and joy. And I'm not going to really tell the photographer, but I'm thinking of that. And it's like a memory that's coming up for me. And it's like the squint of the eye. So I'm going to move away from the camera with a serious face and I'm going to come back and you're going to see that my eyes are going to tighten a little bit. And I'm going to give a slight upward movement of the corner of my lips. It's like I'm smiling, but not with the showing of the teeth. Okay. So if I'm dead face versus if I'm smize. So dead face.
Oh man, you master that smize.
So I'm thinking about like, this is an amazing podcast, right? So like I'm smiling, like I'm happy, good energy, slightly lips. I'm going to do it again, dead face. And then I'm going to squint eyes and slight smile. And the trick for doing the smize is do not stare at the photographer for more than 5 seconds because what happens, then your smize starts to be fake. Your eye starts to water a little bit. So you notice, like if you watch the replay, I actually moved my eyes away from the camera and looked down a few times. So I did this. And then you could part your lips slightly. So the thing is, depending on shape of your teeth, you practice in front of the mirror. So for mouth expressions, you either want to have closed lip, slight part, Colgate smile, or a big smile. There's like 4 main ones if you want to just do general. So what does that mean? It looks like
the opening. Smile.
Or big. So it needs to be either Colgate, which is like the teeth are touching, or where your teeth are separated. And the thing is, sometimes too, when we get nervous, if we do not part our lips slightly, we start to have tension here. So it's like, or if we say cheese, you know how like when you're in a group photo and like, I don't know who still says cheese, but some people do. But when you do that, or you're smiling and you're getting stuck because you're like, okay, did they get it? Did they get the shot? Did they get the shot? And your eyes start to get awkward and, big. And you notice in photos when it's like, okay, you were almost smiling too much because you were trying to hold the smile. So you'll notice on the red carpet, even sometimes celebrities who are more comfortable on camera, they've learned this. You smile with your mouth, close your mouth, smile, open, close, because it resets your face. So if I'm going to do that, I'm going to be like this. And when you laugh out loud. Do not laugh silently. It makes the world of a difference. It makes the world of a difference. So because when you're trying to have this big laugh and you're not really laughing, some of it is going to come out fake. And what happens when you laugh for real? It opens up like all of the endorphins and everything. Like you're actually in the moment and enjoying the moment with your photographer. And it's funny because I didn't realize that I used to do this at first. And then I started noticing shoot after shoot, photographers would start laughing and they're like, oh my gosh, you're so funny. I'm like, well, what do you mean? They're like, I love that you laugh out loud. Like you're actually in the moment, and it makes a big difference in your photos. So if we're doing the fake, like it's going to feel a little fake in your eyes versus if you're genuinely like hearing you. So it doesn't have to be huge, but that's why you hear me going like, because I'm actually doing it. I'm actually enjoying that laugh.
And make a little chuckle, make the noise. Who cares? No one's going to make fun of you. Just do it.
Right. Yeah. Right. And there's actually this other model that we used to do a lot of shoots together. And hers wasn't necessarily a laugh, but she would do like a, and it was her thing. And at first I didn't know what it was because the first time I was working with her, I was like, why do I keep hearing And I realized I was laughing and her version of the laugh was the And it always gave her a more realistic smize with her eyes whenever she did It was like her reset. So find whatever works for you, but don't try to fake it so much, because if you're smiling the whole time and the mouth is open the whole time, you'll eventually go from yes, giving a real smile to a fake tense smile. So open mouth. So it's like, and what did I do? I didn't do all of those expressions directly staring at the camera and the photographer. No, I did slight like 5-degree, 10-degree movements as I was doing that. So yeah, they'll get the shot here. And then I slightly switch to give them like another angle. But by the end, I'm going to have at least 5 different movements and expressions so that within there, I'm like, oh, okay, now I have some variations in my photos. Makes sense?
Yeah, you're just moving just ever so slightly, but it gives, I could see them in photos watching you and being like, oh yeah, now I totally get it, seeing it visually. And you're explaining it very well. So you guys have to go see the video. It's going to be on YouTube.
Yes.
To check out all
I try to slow it down because my brain is like, it makes sense for me, but when I was making my posing course, it took me about 3 months to just come up with the curriculum for the posing course, because I had to think about, how do I say this to where what seems easy and common sense to me is not as easy for obviously the person that's paying for this course. So how do I break it down so that someone watching this and listening to this is like, oh, okay, I see exactly what you're meaning, So I was very intentional about breaking down all of the videos. Like all of the videos in the course are about like 5 minutes so that it's not overwhelming. And, in a language that people can understand if you're not a model.
Yes. No, you're breaking it down amazingly. Like, I feel like I've gotten so many good tips on what to do in front of the camera.
Good.
But one more thing about preparing for a photo shoot or a vacation, are there certain things that you're doing prior to a photo shoot? Obviously, like eating healthy, but what else are you doing? Like, are you doing stuff to your face? Are you getting facials? Like, what else are we
Yeah.
doing here to
So,
prepare?
I mean, it definitely depends on, like, if we're talking about skin, for instance, it depends on your skin, right? So, if you're like acne prone, if you have generally like oily skin, right? You definitely want to make sure that, if possible, that you do get a facial before, because it's just pulling off all of the dead skin so that the day of your shoot, when you're having maybe a professional makeup artist do it, your makeup sits in your skin a lot better. So, non-makeup artist here, but for instance, if you do, what is it called, like the dermaplaning, where you take off the peach fuzz from your face, your makeup sits into your face so much better when you get that peach fuzz off. And those little things that you don't even notice, you're like, wow, why does my face like glow so much there? Why is the makeup artist did even better? Yes, of course, it's the skill set of what you did with your face or your makeup artist, but just that little thing, getting off all the peach fuzz off of your face before you put on your makeup for a brand shoot makes a difference in how the makeup is going to sit on your face. Making sure that you're well moisturized. Like, you're someone that like doesn't typically have time to do a bunch of like routines with your skin. Just lather your face with as much moisture as possible, at least 2 to 3 days before your brand shoot. So morning and night, just keeping your face extremely hydrated with product. And then of course, drinking your liquids. And then the day of the shoot, for instance, or like a few days before your shoot, this is something that health experts say that you should be doing anyways, but especially like a few days before your shoot, like having warm water with lemon in it in the morning, because that just like helps to detox your body. It's going to help get rid of like some of the bloating that you may have in your stomach. And then you just look and feel a lot more fresh on camera. So actually in my water right now, this is warm water and it has some apple cider vinegar. So this is what I did this morning. And I just continued it because I knew my throat would probably be acting up from getting over my cold. So little things like that are part of your, depending on, again, I'm not a health expert, but the health experts say you should be having hot water and lemon anyways every morning to start your day, or at least with a little apple cider vinegar maybe, but especially before you shoot, because it does help with your debloating for your stomach. So definitely the moisturization, getting the peach fuzz off if possible. Also things that we don't think about, like you may be having a brand shoot, and especially like a lot of the women that I work with, they're coaches, for instance, or people in the entrepreneurial founder space, and they may have a big brand shoot. So they go out with like their team the day before or the night before, and they're so excited because finally all of the planning is that they've done for months is finally here. And then what happens? You go have dessert and you have alcohol the night before. Not so great, because it affects how your skin is. It affects what your energy is going to be look like for your brand shoot. So especially if you have a shoot that's like, 5-6 hours, you want to limit your sugar, limit your alcohol, and limit your salt intake at least a few days before the shoot as much as possible. And so one fun fact is, besides like, modeling for full body, I'm a hand model. So as a
Oh,
hand model, you tend to have, or not tend to, but you can have like a lot of veins that start to show, for instance, in your hands, especially, just as you age, that's just a natural thing. But before hand modeling, I definitely have to make sure that I'm really hydrated and that I don't have a lot of salt, because my veins, like I just naturally have, like what if I go do blood work, they can see my veins very easily. But if I've
mhm.
had a lot of salt or sugar before, my hands are much more veinier than they are now. So even if it's not a hand modeling shoot, if it's your brand shoot and you've had all of this salt and now you're like doing like these movements where your hand is up here, guess what? We're going to notice all of those things in your hands. So your hands can be hydrated or not hydrated, not just by the lotion you put on, when you right before you get in front of the photographer. It's based on, did you have too much salt, too much sugar, or too much alcohol in your body before you did your photo shoot? So keep that in mind.
Yes, no, great tips. Now, what are you eating the day of the shoot? Because, or while the shoot is going on. I mean, some of them can be long, and you've got to keep your energy up because it does take a lot of energy to pose and move and, do all the stuff. So, what are you eating the day of?
So of course, I mean, everyone has different, there's vegetarians and pescatarians and
Yeah.
yeah. So, but for myself personally, I feel like you want to eat something that's not going to make you feel super heavy and full, which a lot of times tends to be meat, right? So even if you are going to have meat, try to have something that's more lean, like instead of a steak, if you're going to have meat, have like chicken or seafood, like a fish, for instance, right? And even if you do decide to have something that's like your typical, just try to make sure the portion isn't going to make you feel that heaviness in your stomach, because you're going to feel it throughout the shoot, or even just like how your body just naturally feels, doesn't feel as light. So just go in the lighter standpoint of like a salad that has like some protein on it, right? So even for myself, sometimes I'll bring like a protein shake depending on like how like long my day is going to be, just to keep like refueling. So yeah, just lots of hydration. Even throughout the day, maybe have like some water with like a little bit of lemon in there, or a little bit of electrolyte. So that's what I do. Like when I'm coaching a client, even though I'm not the one that's in front of the camera that day, if I'm their posing coach for their brand shoot, or sometimes I coach clients that it's not even their brand shoot. It's just like myself and my client in a studio in person, just teaching them posing techniques so that they can use that however they wish. And even in those moments, I'm thinking about, okay, how do I keep my energy up? So it's like water that has electrolytes in there, because it's making sure that like I don't start getting a headache, because I'm doing a lot of talking to my client. And I want to make sure that I'm able to sustain that without feeling like, oh gosh, like a migraine is coming on. So making sure I have something light that's, some protein that I'm not going to feel super heavy, and my electrolytes. And sometimes even, again, I'm not a doctor, but for myself, I know that sometimes magnesium helps because it's the stress. So whatever you can do to de-stress, so like magnesium or ashwagandha, which is like, helps for stress management. Those are some of the things that I'll sometimes just take like as a supplement, just to help me to make sure that I can sustain working with a client, whether I'm the model or if I'm coaching them.
I love that. I love that. Now, this is something more internal question of, how do you help someone bring out their inner confidence? You can give them tips, but how do you try and pull that out of someone? Or are there tips for, just what we should be thinking of when we're going into a shoot like this?
I love this question. So, I mean, obviously depends on the scenario, right? But for instance, like you started this podcast, right? And now you are ranked in the podcast space, but and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe when you first started this, you were like a little bit nervous, a little bit apprehensive about like, is this going to be worth my time? It's a lot of money to invest. Like even microphones are not that cheap, right? There's a cost for everything. Are people going to listen to this? You get the opportunity to go and be on a panel stage, and you're a speaker, and there's 500 people at this event that's staring at you. And what I try to tell like myself is, which is like what I would, transfer to my clients. Because even myself as a model, a lot of times people think like, oh, you're a model, like you're pretty, like you probably don't have any self-confidence issues. Not the case at all. Sports Illustrated every year, or however they do it, they pick like the cover models and the rookies and all of that stuff for the year, right? And the Sports Illustrated models, they had an interview with a lot of them with snippets, and they all had to talk about like self-confidence. And every single one of them was like, before I go out on that runway, before I do the shoot, yeah, I'm a Sports Illustrated model, but I still get nervous. I still have self-confidence issues. And it's thinking about half those people that are probably staring at you at that photo shoot, or that are staring at you in the audience watching you, or that are staring at you. They wish that they had taken the step that you did 5 years ago when everybody was like, oh, start a podcast. And they did it. And now they're like, oh, that could have been me. Like Kimberly having a ranked podcast now. That could have been me on that panel, but I was too afraid, or I was too worried about like what my friends from high school were going to say about me, right? So half those people that are potentially judging you, even the people watching you, the photographer, they could be thinking, wow, I wish I had her body. Wow, I wish I had her gorgeous hair, right? Or I wish I had the confidence enough to be on stage, or I wish that somebody saw me enough to invite me on their podcast, right? So it's like thinking about what are all of the things that you probably prayed about several years ago, and now you're actually living this moment. So yes, it's going to be fearful, or potentially fearful. I still have those moments before, like I do like your podcast, for instance, or before I go coach a client, like I always like pray to God and like, just ask him to help me like in this moment, and that the questions that are asked are things that I actually have the expertise in. Or if I don't know, I'll just be like, that's one that I'm still trying to figure out. Or when I coach a client, that even if I'm unsure about what to do with their arm, if they keep like mentioning their arm, that like I have an epiphany of how to do that so that, it works out. And so it's not to say that none of us are going to have that we're going to get to a stage where we're always confident. There's usually going to be always something, but just trying to flip that and think like, how are all of these things that I wanted or these little moments actually like a blessing for me? So even if you're on a shoot and you're with a photographer and you're like, oh, this is intimidating. And you can think to yourself, wow, like I'm so glad I found this photographer. At least like she's really nice, or at least like she keeps like saying like, don't worry, like I'll give you some tips, or at least, I love this outfit. Like, let's just make the best of it with this outfit, right? Also, one final thing I'll say is sometimes in the moment when we do get stuck, tend to like have like all of these inspirational photos that we've screenshot on our phone, like from Pinterest or whatever. How many times do we have the screenshot and then you get home and you're like, oh crap, I forgot to actually look at those, or I forgot like that I
Right.
wanted to do that pose. When you're on a photo shoot, do not feel bad, or like, even if you have to set a reminder in your phone that an alarm goes off. Because I done this before, like when I knew that I needed to get better on camera. Set that alarm or tell the photographer, print them out. Like sometimes I actually will have printed out photos of the inspirations that I want. So that if I get stuck, it's like, you know what, Kimberly, let's pause for a second. Let me look at this photo. Oh yeah, I wanted to recreate this shot. Okay. So
Mhm.
you pause and then you like get back into the energy of like, oh, right, that was a really good shot. Let's do that. And then all of a sudden, when you realize now you have these ideas flowing back to you, that lack of confidence that you had starts to be flipped around. And now you're like, okay, now I have a little motivation and a little bit inspiration again. So if it means that you need to print out those photos versus just having them on your phone, that way when you go to the shoot and you have them next to your outfits, like great example, when we do runway shows or like, fashion shows, the designer has a board with all of the models' pictures, or myself. I don't do runway, but I do print shoots, right? So one of the clients that I worked with was for Kohl's. So when I went to Kohl's, like I had all of my clothes had my name on it, right? And so sometimes they'll have like a photo of the outfit or like what the inspiration is. So on your clothing rack at your brand shoot, next to the outfit of the pink business suit or like, the blazer with the shorts, print out 4 or 5 photos from Pinterest or whatever that you were like, oh, this would be perfect for that outfit. Hang it next to your outfit. That way, when you go to change, you're like, oh, right, this is what I wanted to do in that outfit, right? Or like I have a posing guide. It's my stunning poses guide, and my clients will download that to their phone. And when they're on set, they go to their photographer. Hey, I want to do this photo right here that Kamla did. Let's try this pose, right? And so that's a way. So don't feel like you have to have everything figured out or memorized. In those moments, it's okay to pause and say, I don't have it together right now. Let's regroup and let's just like look at the images. And that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, that's a great, great point. Is like, I think in general, just to be prepared going into it, you're going to be more relaxed because you're going to know that you have everything there. You have the list. You've tried on the clothes. You've done the lens buddy and you've taken pictures of yourself in advance. You kind of know what's going on. And I love that you kind of brought up the gratitude of it all. Like chances are, if you're doing a brand shoot, if you're going on a big vacation, this is a moment that you've really dreamt about and you've prayed for, in the past, and you're actually at that moment. So just take it in and try to enjoy it. And I feel like with these tips, we'll be armed with everything that we need so that we can look like a supermodel in front of the camera like you. And I'm so grateful that
Your
you
own
shared all your
version.
wisdom.
Your own version of supermodel. And I'm always like, even myself, I'm like, okay, I'll be quick to compare myself to like another model. Like, oh, I want to be like, pose like that. Right. Because everyone has their own version. So like, just try to be the best version of like whatever you can come up with on camera or whatever you can come up with what you say on a panelist. So that was a great point.
Yes, absolutely. Kamla-Kay McKenzie, I'm so grateful that you came here to share all your amazing knowledge and teaching us how to work the camera like you. You're beautiful, such a light. I really appreciate you. Oh, and shout out where people can contact you if they need someone to coach them for a brand shoot. Shout out your social media, website.
Yes. So everything for my brand is just my first name, which is Kamla-Kay. So it's Kamlakay. So on Instagram, it's at Kamla-Kay. My website is kamlakay.com. And then from my website, you'll be able to see like how to grab my perfect poses posing course or to schedule like a one-on-one. So the one-on-one, it doesn't have to be just at a brand shoot. It could be, like I said before, if we're just in a studio working together, teaching you these things in person so that I can actually adjust your body in real time. So don't wait till the brand shoot. It could be the brand shoot, but it doesn't have to be.
Okay. Yeah. That's again, the preparation. You could do it in advance and then feel really good going into it.
Right. Exactly. And practice. Whatever you do, take nothing else from this. Make sure that you practice. If you learned one thing from today, don't just hear this one thing in the podcast when you're listening to this and then never practice what to do with your ballerina fingers or never practice what to do with your chin adjustments. Practice, because you can learn all the tips, but it's like I started taking golf lessons. Nothing's going to change if I don't actually go to the course and practice, right? Same thing
Very
with posing.
true.
You have to put in the work. Yeah. Yes.
Very, very true. Kamla-Kay McKenzie, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. This was great.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of The Cinnamon Effect. If you enjoyed our time together, don't forget to hit that follow button on your podcast app and sprinkle a little love by leaving us a 5-star rating and a quick review. Your support means the world to me. For even more goodness, check out the show notes where you'll find links to some of my favorite products. And don't forget to visit thecinnamoneffect.com to connect with me directly or to grab your TCE Gratitude Journal, your next step towards a more grateful life. I can't wait to spice things up with you again next time. Stay vibrant, stay inspired, and remember to add a little cinnamon to your life every day.